The Spin-off Podcast Network.
Are you making the most of your KiwiSaver investment? Generate is an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of strong long-term performance. Making a smart decision now could add tens of thousands of dollars by the time you reach retirement. Book a no-obligation chat with a Generate KiwiSaver advisor today at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/get-advice. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
No mai hoki mai ki other fold e mihi nei ko Duncan Grieve toko ingoa. My guest today is, I think this is third time, maybe it's fourth, who knows. It's Lucy Blackiston, back for the first time in a while. Lucy is, as regular listeners will know, the founder and driver of Shit You Should Care About, a sort of 4 million strong plus kind of audience, news explaining aggregation, one the kind unto herself, built on Instagram, but now increasingly focused on Substack. We talk about that quite a lot. She's, as we discussed, we're good friends and talk a lot. And she's had a year. In that time, she's moved home from Portugal. She's experienced depression. She talks about that. So, be aware of that going into it if you need to. She's moved back to Blenheim. She's had 2 of her co-founders leave Cisco to do other things. They remain very close. She's written a book that is coming out later this year, Make It Make Sense, co-written with Belle Hawkins. And she's sort of ultimately got to a really good place through all of that, where I think she really understands exactly what Shit You Should Care About is meant to be in this world, and that is effectively as a part of the creator economy. In reality, it's not a news business. That's not what she wanted it to be. And it's really kind of gone back to its roots. It now generates a livable income for her, and she has complete authority over it. She has very little relationship with advertising. Hamish McKenzie from Substack will be pleased to hear that. But it's very much the Substack is the core of the thing. And Instagram, where the audience was built, where a lot of, what kind of made her prominent and kind of much admired, that is becoming less and less of a thing for her. And we talk about that and about what has happened to kind of news aggregators on Instagram, particularly sort of since October 7th and everything that has come after. And she's extremely candid about that. The caveats are that obviously, it shouldn't need saying, but let's just say it, that both of us believe that what's happening there is appalling, but there is a sort of, if you are going to be in the news business versus the activism business, there is a layer of complexity about how you deliver that information that a lot of people who are extremely on Instagram don't seem to have much time for or interest in. But we try and explain that on this podcast. And then talk about a little bit more about this kind of my sort of monoculture theory, quite a different topic to close it. It's a short, sharp episode by Fold standards. If you've enjoyed episodes with Lucy before, I think you'll enjoy this one. I really admire her, more broadly, but I really admire particularly the candor that she brings to the way that she approaches her life and her business and what she brought to this episode. So Yeah, this is Lucy Blackiston on the Fold. Just before we get into it, can I make a humble request of you? We're running a quick survey at the moment just to try and find out more about our listenership of the Fold. So if you could just jump into the show notes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and just fill in a very quick survey. I would be hugely grateful. If you get anything out of this podcast, telling us a little bit about yourself will help it keep going and better serve you all. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And yeah, this is Lucy on the Fold. Kia ora, Lucy. Welcome back to the Fold.
Hi, my angel. I'm so glad to be home.
This is. I love that this is your home.
It is my home.
I wanted you to tell the story of since we last sort of spoke with a hot mic. You're sort of Siska is smaller, and has kind of changed tack, I guess, from a creator you're more now a creator who explains the news than an emerging news business. And I feel like that's quite a big change from where you might have gone. I'd love you to talk me through that period.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's the dream change. I don't feel like it's that much of a change. I feel like this was the destiny.
Yeah, I mean, there were people, maybe me, who were trying to persuade you to take another path, but I think you've chosen the right path, and I'm curious about why.
Okay, well, I started with 3 co-founders, my 2 best friends, Ruby and Liv. First of all, we're still best friends. We always said friends first, business second. So need to get that on the record. We're still best friends. I'm still obsessed with them. Liv, our designer, she went off to London and chased her dreams over there. Ruby, our commercial girl, basically reached her ceiling of what she could learn and do. And I started saying, I don't really like doing ads that much. So her job kind of became like defunct. And she's now slaying in Sydney. And so it's just me. And it's interesting that you say Siska is now smaller because it's smaller in terms of the team, but it's like bigger in terms of who we reach, specifically in the newsletter, which is my favorite part of the whole business. But I feel like I was just never destined to run a newsroom, and I was never destined to have a team under me. I've always just wanted my one job to be me talking to the people, not me talking to people who talk to the people. And I honestly think I do that now.
No, you just seem so much happier, and there is just a real there's a kind of resilience and coherence to that for you, which I really love. But in between times, some other crazy shit happened. You signed a book deal for Make It Make Sense, which is going to come out real soon. And you moved to Portugal to write it. Can you tell me about those 2 crazy things?
These 2 crazy things. Yes. So me and one of our columnists, or / our only columnist, Belle, who I met via working adjacent to the spin-off, we signed a book deal. I never wanted to write a book. We had people asking Siska, like, write a coffee table book, write an infographic book, blah, blah, blah. No, I was never into that. I was a short-form girly, short-form writer. Honestly, the idea of having a project that I had to work on for a year made me want to die. And foreshadowing, it continued to make me want to die. But Belle is essentially a beautiful writer, and when I started editing her, I knew she wanted to write a book, and I was kind of like, I could probably do it with you. I could probably co-write a book with you because we'd balance each other out. And so then we got an agent, and then we signed a book deal, and then Belle was like, why don't we go to Lisbon to write this? And I was like, cool. Maybe I'm going to be a Euro girly. Like, maybe I'm going to be mincing down cobblestone streets, drinking limoncello, and being really chic in Lisbon. And I got there and I did that, and I, spoiler, didn't know Portuguese very well, not well enough to crack a joke. And most of my connection with people is, as maybe you can hear on this podcast, through talking to them. And I found it really lonely not being able to connect with people in the way that I'm best at. And I really thought that it was going to be my dream. And then it just wasn't my dream. And I was thinking about tax 24/7 and visa issues. And I got real depressed, which wasn't surprising to me because it's been something that I've been dealing with since I was about 15. But it's really scary when it happens to you in another country. And Ruby actually rang me one day and was like, Luce, I know you're making heaps of friends and stuff, but are you happy? And you can't lie to your bone friends, right? And so I was just like, fuck, I don't think I am. And it wasn't. And then my dad was like, hey, you seem different and you should probably come home. And then I went home and just became a shell of myself. Here we go.
Okay. So we'll just go there, right?
Let's just go there.
Because, like it's quite a thing when you announce and you tell people, and the way that you do in your, the way that you live, part of the way that you make the news attractive is that you reveal a lot about yourself and what you're going through at any given time as a person. That's part of why it works, because that's sort of bundled with the news. And then you have to you're going to Portugal, and then you have to sort of say, actually I'm not, and quite quickly. And that naturally is going to really weigh on you as part of the returning home. It's not like
not like I could just sneak home.
Yeah.
And I actually told Ruby, I was like, this is the first time in my life that I've felt shame, which I think is good for me because I'm a writer. I want to experience all the emotions I can, but I'm embarrassed all the time because I'm an embarrassing person, but I have never felt shame. And I just texted her being like, fuck, I'm honestly feeling really ashamed. And of course it was the classic, everyone's going, no one cares that you move home and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah.
It's really true.
It's so true. No one cares that you move home. And it's like the best thing. If you are lucky enough to be able to do it, and you can, and you want to, fucking take it from me, do it. But having to tell 90,000 people who have come on this whole journey with you that it didn't work out is a different type of, I don't know, a different type of having to put yourself outside of your own body and just I came home for a month and I didn't tell them. And then after a month of feeling better, I was like, hey guys, I'm actually home.
I'm not where I said I was.
I'm not where I said I was. Sorry for lying to you, but I'm less depressed now. So surely you guys are happy for me. And they were.
Because that gap between, we talked a little bit as you were moving home, and you really went home. You live in Blenheim now.
Home. To my home doctor who has tried to fix me for years. And now I'm old enough that I went back to the doctor and I was like, hey, I'm actually ready to be better and a normal person. So everyone, if you need to go on antidepressants, obviously talk to your doctor, but it'll change your fucking life. Sorry to be so candid on here, Doug. I know it's a media pod, but...
Well, no, but I think that the future of the media, the biggest thing to happen to media in my lifetime is basically the rise of the creator economy and user-generated content, and the fact that you have both a deep reverent love for the other forms of media, but also embody and have a huge awareness and love for creator economy. This thing you're describing, the living a life in public and the burnout and the kind of all of the tensions that embodies, this is the whole thing. And also the living your life in public and telling people what's really going on with you rather than the bullshit version.
I know, I've never been able to lie. I've never lied to my audience. I just cannot lie. Which, great. You guys should all love me for it, but it's really hard sometimes.
So tell us about, obviously the medication is a part of this, but the path out of that pit that you had at the start of the summer we've just been through into the kind of radiant happiness you got right now.
Okay, the path out was move back to the regions, touch a lot of grass, get phone calls from your bestie / mentor Duncan all the time to make sure that you're on the hinges. And honestly, I think doing Shit You Should Care About on my own actually made a big impact because I'm not good at having to worry about other people. And there were times where I'd worry that I wasn't talking enough to Ruby or I wasn't doing enough to push the business forward. And now that it's all on me, I love me being the only thing I have to worry about, which is quite a selfish way to live, but it's how this thing continues. And then also when I was really down, and I know we're going to talk about it, but I was really down in October, and on October 7th, something else huge in the world happened, and people were coming for my throat about it, and I was already feeling shit about myself, and not to make it all about me, but it was a really horrible time to be online, and so I was ready to delete everything. I was honestly ready to delete everything, and that would have been a real shame, but luckily I got better, which then made my approach to the media and how I was talking about the events on October 7th, etc., more meaningful. It's a fucking hard time to be on the internet.
It's a crazy hard time to be on the internet. And it feels like you have to kind of constantly issue these enormous kind of caveats about it. But I do think it's worth exploring that, because it feels like for anyone who's trying to do news as distinct from activism, as distinct from showing how much you care about an awful, unfolding, agonizing situation, there is complexity there. So, and it doesn't seem like, I don't know, I do want to dig into the fact that all this has kind of coincided with October 7th and everything that has come after. What can you just talk briefly about what that has done to kind of people in that news aggregation explanation space on specific social media platforms over that period?
Yeah, it's meant that if you play the game, as in like if you see what everyone on social media is sharing and saying, and there's like a concise sort of agreement online, and you fall into that sort of, I want to call it performative a little bit. If you fall into that and you just share shit for the sake of sharing shit, like, you're going to win. Like, if you play the game, you're going to win. But if you try to be nuanced or you try to take your time, like, you're not going to win. And I hate that it's become a game. Like, Duncan and I were actually talking about this the other day, and it's kind of feels like gamifying social justice a little bit. Like, how many likes, how many shares, how many things are on your feed, regardless of what you're doing in your real life. It just feels very performative, and this comes with a whole lot of caveats of course I care, and if you read the newsletters or you listen to the podcasts from that time, we covered it in depth. But social media is just not the place that you're going to solve a crisis like this. And I honestly, it just made everyone hate news more, and it made people, it feels like 2020, and I thought we'd moved away from 2020, but this just became, being online was just terrible. And you could do whatever you wanted in your real life. You could donate. Every conversation, I'm sure, for everyone was dominated by what was happening in Gaza. And it doesn't matter. If you don't post about it, then people are just going to come for your throat. And it made me really cynical about the internet.
I mean, you wrote recently that you'd love to leave Instagram and that you've almost like fantasized about it. How related to that sort of experience of, this kind of demand for a very specific type or a particular audience segment's version of sort of justice to be administered by accounts that they follow? How connected were those two things?
Direct connection. I've been thinking about this for since 2022. We put way less energy into Instagram. Actually, it's not just because I don't like seeing performative activism. It's more that it's up to the algorithms what you see. It's not even your fault that you see a post that I've done about the Met Gala and not about what's happening in Gaza. It's not your fault that you see it. It's not my fault that you've seen the wrong one first. And I'm sick of playing a game with these algorithms, and I make zero money. Let's be clear, I make zero money from TikTok, Instagram, any social media. And so I just got to the point where I was like, why? The internet's so interesting because you can't touch it, but it can touch you and it can hurt you. And why am I being hurt by this thing that I can't even physically touch? It seems crazy to me. And so I've been doing some deep thinking about Instagram, and yeah, and at the end of the day, I make no money off of it. So why am I letting it hurt me?
At Evernorth Health Services, we believe costs shouldn't get in the way of life-changing care, and we're doing everything in our power to make it possible. Behavioral health solutions that also keep your projections at their best? It's possible. Pharmacy benefits that benefit your bottom line? It's possible. Complex specialty care that cares about your ROI? It's possible. Because we're already doing it. All while saving businesses billions. That's Wonder made possible. Learn more at evernorth.com/wonder.
Talofa Lover. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-Off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-Off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
It's just a really strange situation. Kate Lindsay, who we've had on the fold and writes the newsletter Embedded, which we're both huge fans of, wrote this piece earlier this week that you quoted extensively in your newsletter about the block out, which seemed to me like to kind of crystallize what you're talking about, in the sense that there were these lists put together and very widely shared of people who were considered to be on some level not doing enough, or who by the act of pursuing their careers were somehow traitorous to the cause of justice in Gaza. And one thing which really Kate singled out and that I really sort of stuck out for me was that The Weeknd was on that list.
Yeah.
Who hasn't posted about it, has just donated $4 million to help feed Palestinian people. And you're like, what is the end game here?
Why is a feed post worth more than a $4 million donation?
Literal aid, yeah.
Than literal aid. I know that's a really hard one because I'm obsessed with Gen Z, like being an army and the way they mobilize. And honestly, I was not like that when I was younger. And so I'm obsessed, and it's so interesting to watch. But when it came to the block out in particular, actually I had a really good response to the newsletter I wrote about it. And someone said that they'd seen Bella and Gigi Hadid on some of those lists, who are Palestinian Americans. And Bella Hadid has been talking about this for as long as I've been aware of who Bella Hadid is. And so I don't know why she was on the list. I don't really want to get into like singular people, but another one is Melissa Barrera, and she talked about Gaza, and she lost her job and she was meant to be in Scream 7, and she lost her job because she spoke out about it. And she was on one of the lists, and I'm like, what more can these people do? And I understand a huge thing that I got back from this newsletter was, yeah, but we want to end celebrity worship. We want to end celebrity worship. And it just made me think, like, how many of us are actually worshipping the people that we follow, for one? Two, I don't know if it's kind of a personal thing if you choose to worship people that you follow, because you can just choose not to do that. And three, like, I'm a fangirl at heart. This is totally separate, but sometimes celebrity worship is like all that people have. I don't have religion. I'm not saying that I'm out here looking at Kim Kardashian and being like, fuck, I want to be you. I'm obsessed with you. But just like, I would just like people to have something good, something that they can have for themselves sometimes and it not be terrible.
It also feels like it goes directly to the thesis of shit you should care about. That is that we humans contain multitudes.
Yes.
We can care about more than one thing at once, and that just as it is unhealthy to like have a single celebrity that kind of controls your all of your mind, to be a person that is only kind of exercised by a single issue doesn't recognize the complexity of the world we live in or the number of kind of simultaneous crises, but also like you need to allow yourself the grace to have some outlet that might not be just the most challenging things that the world is going through.
I also have one more thing to say on this. I was talking to someone today actually about the block out, and they made a really good point when they said that for the influencers that we follow that make their whole living and brand about telling us every single thing that they do in their day, it does make sense that if they're not talking about Gaza, if that's actually a big thing that they care about, if that's the only thing they're omitting from their day in the life, or, if that is their brand and they're omitting it, yeah, ask them, like, hey, you thinking about this? You doing anything for this? Because you actually usually show us everything. But for these other celebrities, like these A-listers who have chosen not to show us every single thing they do in their day, to show us the movies they're in or the music they make, it feels like we have less of grounds to expect them to be randomly starting to share all their innermost thoughts and everything they're donating and every conversation they're having about this. Like, I agree, awareness is amazing. I do think that this is a subject that has a lot of awareness. So that argument is, I'll keep talking about it. I'll keep sharing about it because that's actually my job. But there is awareness.
Yeah, but I think it's also like there's a counter argument. It used to be that, when I grew up, right, because it's amazing how much the polarity is reversed on this stuff. Like, when celebrities voiced an opinion about global affairs, in the 90s and early 2000s, invariably it was the sort of default correct one, but often it was devoid of nuance, and there was a huge amount of Gen X default cynicism about it. It's like, yeah, okay, Brad Pitt, I'm sure that you're really exercised about what's going on in Somalia or whatever. It was like, it's a very stay in your fucking lane was the default. And I'm not saying that it should always be that way, but if they're just sort of, like the idea that a celebrity is the person best qualified to give us a perspective on this or what have you, it all seems nuts to me. So anyway, let's leave that fraught subject there for a second, because it also, the fact of where you voiced, you wrote that piece about the blockout, and also you kind of, in that AMA recently mentioned that this kind of desire to one day leave Instagram. You did that in a specific place, which was your Substack. It feels like, from the way that you express yourself there, that there's a place that doesn't have the same forces acting on it. Do you want to give us basically an update on what, because that I assume is where the income is, and where the sort of the true kind of core fans are. Do you want to just talk through that piece?
Yeah, so I'm still obsessed with newsletters. I think they are the best invention. Don't know when they're invented, but I love that everyone can have one now. It's just, okay, I think Instagram has become what Twitter was. You know how Twitter was real bad for reply guys and stuff? Instagram is now that. Like, I've never seen the internet so bad on Instagram. And so it makes sense that, like, all the girlies are moving to Substack. And Substack kind of feels like Tumblr a little bit. It feels like you can just write your little girlhood essays and meet your cool friends on Substack. And also, if you're me, you can give the news in a way that's not going to result in you getting like 700 comments of hate. It just feels safe, and it feels nice, and it feels cute, and it kind of feels like the internet that I started on. Like, I was reading blogs, and it feels like that. And income-wise, I think because it's now just me doing shit you should care about, I'm less worried about obviously having to pay other people. But it just, I don't know, it's nice not to have to do ads, which really has been a learning curve for me, because I used to think I want it all. I want ads, I want podcasts, I want the newsletter subscribers, blah, blah, blah. I actually like just having kind of one form of income that I own. I love owning the newsletter. So that's where I'm at with that.
That's great to hear. And obviously you've got the book, which I assume they're paying you to
No, I'm doing it for free. No. Yeah, and obviously I have the book. And obviously if you want me to come speak at your cool event, you can pay me to do so. Maybe not after listening to this podcast and be like, she's kind of unhinged.
No.
She's on the hinges.
You sound super hinged. Super hinged.
Cool.
Can we talk about, like, because we don't get to talk so much anymore, there's things that sort of...
We've had a big falling out, everyone.
That's true, as you can tell. But there's things that sort of will back up in me. And the one thing because I wrote this little thing for you a few years ago about the death of the monoculture and how much I kind of mourn it. And
on the same day the Queen died, so heaps of people read it because it was like a big newsletter. Yeah, I will never forget your monoculture piece.
But it also felt like it became not because of the thing I wrote. It was obviously in the air, but I would start to see references to the monoculture in more places subsequently, and then I had this thought recently that it was almost like it's not kind of completely contra the monoculture thesis. Monoculture thesis, I should top line, is that the idea that pre-social media, pre-algorithmically delivered sort of news information kind of culture, there were a few big things that we all sort of knew, whether those were movies or like pop stars or global events that kind of gave us this familiarity, like a way of discussing and relating to the world and triangulating our own relationship to it through the lenses of these kind of mass cultural events.
Can I just shit you should care about this for everyone?
Yeah, please do.
This is like me taking a smart person's smart thoughts and making it understandable to everyone.
Yeah.
Monoculture, it's giving one culture in terms of everyone loved Beyonce, everyone loved Taylor Swift. There was a new movie came out, Avatar. We all loved it. We all knew about it. Like, it was cute. We were all obsessed with the same things for a while.
Yeah.
Then the internet came along, social media. Imagine a mirror getting all smashed up, and then we're all looking in different parts of the mirror. There's no more one culture. We're looking at a million different things now.
Thank you. That's what I thought I'd done, but obviously failed. This is very much why I'm a long form guy.
No, this is the Duncan Lucy of it all.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess, and the reason that I
Bring it up.
Yeah, is that suddenly it felt like over the past few weeks we've had Tortured Poets come out and kind of stop the world. We've had Drake versus Kendrick be this kind of unfolding thing, Baby Reindeer, and then the emergence of the real Martha, and even like Challenges, just the kind of that sense of it, probably not quite on that scale, but that sense of, hey, there's this big buzzy new movie. And that's actually the movies, even though they're like down 20%, kind of as a post-Saltburny kind of cultural thing, feels like they can be just like everywhere in a way that they had started to fade away. I mean, what is the monoculture back? What's going on?
I don't know if it's back, but I think with all of those, I have a boring answer for my theory, and it's just like algorithms. Like all those things you mentioned, they really work. Like they really work for social media, and so like.
But this is what I want to talk about, right?
Okay.
Thinking this is why I think it actually is compatible with the new internet. Is like the first gen of first gen of social was time bound, so it was just like what's the most recent.
Yes.
Then we had the algo come in, and the algo kind of meant that you didn't all see the same stuff. But typically, particularly on Facebook and Instagram, it was bound by your own networks.
Yeah.
So something could be massive in one network and kind of invisible to the other.
Yeah.
And now we're moving into this kind of post-TikTok world where things get amplified and spread everywhere.
Yeah.
So it feels like maybe actually like for all of the kind of bad, weird stuff of the sort of the new era of, Instagram and what we've been talking about and so on, there's also this thing is like the internet is becoming a little bit more like TV again in the sense that it's wide distributing certain things so that you kind of can't miss them if you're there.
Yeah, that's actually so interesting, especially considering like TikToks then get posted on Reels and they get posted on YouTube Shorts, like because everyone's just wanting to do the video thing. So it makes sense that they're cross-pollinating all these platforms. That's interesting. I still think on TikTok, I have a totally different For You page to all my friends, but because of these exact ones that you mentioned, and they cross so many, like rappers are interested, but so are YouTube T channels because there's drama between Kendrick and Drake. Like I just think, and like challenges, sports fans are interested, and so are horny people. Like it's just the crossovers are everything. But yeah, okay, maybe the monoculture. Taylor Swift is holding up the monoculture on her back, Loki.
Well, Taylor Swift and Drake were the examples I cited as like, because the other thing about the monoculture is like, it's very hard to birth a new monocultural star, right? Because they were sort of built on. So it's telling to me that Taylor Swift predates algorithmic feeds. So does Drake. So does Kendrick. Baby Reindeer comes out of Netflix, which has its own kind of insane cultural power. Challenge is a little bit different, but Zendaya is actually an example of a kind of modern birthed star. So is Billie Eilish. Like they can be made. Olivia Rodrigo. They can be made. It's just harder to do it. And it's like the old star system. I feel like I'm talking about old Hollywood from the 30s here, but it does feel a bit that way.
Okay.
They got to kind of hold their position and the actual kind of moat around them. Cultural moat around them is so powerful, but if you can make it across now,
I know
it's kind of incredible. Like I don't even know how they do it.
We've talked about this before. I reckon when you know someone's like monoculture level is when they can do the Super Bowl and it can actually be like fire. Like you know, that's how we're gonna know.
That's God tier.
That's God tier monoculture.
That's right. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I mean, I just feel like this should be a weekly podcast between me and you, but I hate it when people say that. I don't know. Are you happy?
No, not this week.
Oh my God, guys.
That's all right. My beloved grandmother Judith, we farewelled her yesterday at her funeral. I'm just going to...
So can we dedicate this podcast to Judith?
Yeah, we can dedicate it to her. We had a funeral yesterday and it was truly a roast. It was 45 minutes of us absolutely like just recounting the funniest, most savage stories about this very funny, very savage old lady.
I've heard that your speech was really funny. From my sources. So congrats, Duncan, and I'm really sorry.
I had to speak for my cousins, and we've got we've got
You got
quality
some good
material
stories.
there. But yeah, this one's for you, Jude.
Yeah.
Stuff you then. That was her
It's
classic.
true.
That's how every conversation with her ended.
Stuff you then.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, bless her.
Thank you, Lucy. This is
Always
heaps
a
of fun.
pleasure. Always a pleasure, Dal.
We're going to keep doing this
Yeah.
once a year minimum for as long as I live.
And please, everyone buy my book, Make It Make Sense. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spinoff. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spinoff member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spinoff Podcast Network.